Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2019 British gangster horror film 13 Graves, a film that is written and directed by John Langridge. It stars Kevin Leslie, we have Morgan James, Jacob Anderton, Terry Dyer, Michael McKell, Tony Cook and Greg Draven. And this is a horror film with a gangster style theme to it, and it focuses on essentially two hitmen, Frank and Terry, who work for the local mob. They have done their fair share of killings, fairly cold-blooded killings for the mob, and at the beginning of the film they are given a job to do, to take some guy into the woods, take him out and bury him. Now the problem is with these woods is every victim that they've ever killed gets dragged out to these woods and buried somewhere in it. So there's literally quite a few bodies out in this woods. 13 graves. So there's a lot of bodies in these woods, and they are adding to it on this day. So, however, when the deed is done, they find that strange things start happening in these woods. They can't seem to find their way out. They come across a creepy house. Things aren't what they seem, and they may well not be on their own in these woods. There may be something a little bit malicious that is actually hunting them now. So without going into spoilers, that's the very basics of the film that we have here. Two hitmen going into the woods and not finding their way back out again. So this is actually a reasonably well made film, I have to say. It's a low budget film, but it's got some good production values to it. It's, even though the 90% of it is out in these woods and in this like old house and things like that, it's actually got good quality look about it. Sound design's all fine, and the acting is all on point here. There's nobody here that stands out as a poor actor. They all put in pretty impressive performances here, especially Kevin Leslie and Morgan James, the two hitmen in question, and especially Kevin Leslie, who's actually you see, he's a very, very cold hitman. He's no problem killing, but he also has he's a bit of a damaged soul, if you like, as well. He lost somebody some years previously that still hurts him to this day. The issue kind of with this film is it doesn't know what it wants to be in a sense of the horror approach. The gangster side of it is pretty black and white. The horror approach here, you're not sure if it's like a supernatural thing that's going on. Well, there clearly is when you watch it, but also there's a weird, almost cult Wicker Man approach to it as well. There's like these people in the woods that, you know, this weird cult that's going on out there, and it's a bit messy in regards to how it tells that story and what the connection is between the cult and all these bodies, you know, in the woods, and the supernatural approach that the film takes. It's a bit messy in that sense. You just got to kind of swallow it and accept what it's deciding to do. So it gets a bit surreal, you know. One minute you've got these two hitmen running around the woods, effing and jeffing at everything and cracking jokes here and there, and pretty sinister at times as well. And then it kind of gets a bit surreal, because you get these culty people running around, and there's like dancing and, you know, tortures, and it's just like, oh, this is a bit odd. It gets a bit surreal and a bit odd. But in actual fact, at times this film is quite thought-provoking and surprisingly deep. As I say, Frank, one of the hitmen, is you get the impression that he's had no problem killing, and he does have no problem killing if that's what he's been told to do, but he does have a bit of, like I say, a tortured soul going on, and he does question a number of times in the film what he's doing, why they're doing it, all that kind of stuff. So it is actually, it's not just a one-dimensional approach, if you like. They actually give Kevin Leslie quite a layered character to work with here, and he's pretty nicely fleshed out, I have to say. So they're out in these woods, and essentially they get confronted by their sins, shall we say, their past sins. And it's a surprisingly good film. Much better than I expected it to be. Like I say, it's got a certain polish to it, this film. It looks very nice. Some low budget films look and feel cheap. This doesn't. It's got a very distinct British look about it, you know. A lot of these British films have got quite polished looks to them, you know, these horror films, and this is no exception. And it's a well-made film. There's no criticisms I can really throw at it that sense. It's just the main criticisms I have with it is it's a little bit confused as to what kind of horror film it wants to be, and the ending is a little confused and a bit unsatisfying, and there's only so many times you can kind of watch someone running through the woods sort of thing. And it is literally, for much of the film, it's just these two characters, Kevin Leslie and Morgan James, Frank and Terry, interacting with them. There are others. There's Jacob Anderton as Billy, who shows up in the film initially and later on in the film, and some of the people that they're confronted with make these appearances later on in the film. So it's hard really to give it too much criticism here, other than it's a little bit underwhelming, I suppose. But it's nicely made, and it's a bit tame when it comes to the horror side of it too. It doesn't show an awful lot. Some of the sound effects for early on in the film just didn't seem to fit. There's a scene where they open the lid and there's like these maggots, and there's this weird sound effect of supposedly these maggots moving around, but you know, they don't make that noise. They don't make any noise. Do you know what I mean? Maggots, and there's awful weird noise going on just for effect. So there's a couple of poor choices here and there, but overall, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's not a bad film. It's much better than I expected it to be. And if you're a fan of like British-based horror, this is certainly worth checking out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my review for 13 Graves. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and of course I will see you next time on Screen Stars.